A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens is a sweeping historical novel set during the tumultuous era of the French Revolution. The story begins with the famous line, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times," immediately immersing the reader in the contrasting worlds of London and Paris, where the novel's events unfold. The tale opens with Jarvis Lorry, a banker from Tellson's Bank, traveling to France to retrieve Dr. Alexandre Manette, a physician who has been unjustly imprisoned in the Bastille for 18 years. Dr. Manette, having lost his identity and sanity during his long incarceration, spends his days obsessively making shoes, a skill he learned while in prison. When Lorry finds him, Dr. Manette is a broken man, physically free but still mentally shackled by his traumatic past. With great care, Lorry brings him back to England, where Dr. Manette is reunited with his daughter, Lucie, who had believed him to be dead. The loving bond between Lucie and her father begins to restore him to health, slowly bringing him back to life. Several years later, the narrative shifts to Charles Darnay, a French aristocrat living in England who has renounced his family's title and wealth due to their cruel treatment of the peasantry. Darnay is arrested in England on charges of treason, accused of passing English secrets to the French. However, he is acquitted when his lawyer, the dissolute but brilliant Sidney Carton, points out their striking resemblance, which casts doubt on the identification of Darnay as the traitor. Following his acquittal, Darnay falls in love with Lucie Manette, and they eventually marry. However, Carton, who also harbors deep feelings for Lucie, remains in the background, resigned to his unrequited love. Carton is a complex character, a man of great potential who has squandered his life in dissipation and cynicism. Yet his love for Lucie becomes a redeeming force, igniting within him the desire to do something noble and selfless. As the story progresses, the French Revolution erupts with brutal force. The oppressed lower classes, led by figures like Ernest and Madame Defarge, rise up against the aristocracy, unleashing a wave of violence and terror across France. The revolutionaries storm the Bastille, and the reign of terror begins, with countless nobles being executed by the guillotine. Amidst this chaos, Charles Darnay receives a letter from an old family servant, begging for help. Against his better judgment, he returns to France to assist, only to be arrested as an enemy of the people. Despite his renunciation of his aristocratic heritage, Darnay is condemned because of his lineage, being the nephew of the despised and tyrannical Marquis Saint-Evremond, whose cruelty had sown the seeds of hatred in the hearts of the French populace. In Paris, Darnay is imprisoned in La Force, awaiting trial before the Revolutionary Tribunal, where the Defarge, especially the vengeful Madame Defarge, seek his death. The Defarges discover an old letter written by Dr. Manette during his imprisonment, which condemns the Evremond family for their crimes against Madame Defarge's own family. This letter seals Darnay's fate, and he is sentenced to death. In a desperate attempt to save her husband, Lucie, along with her father, travels to Paris. Dr. Manette, revered by the revolutionaries for his own suffering, tries to use his influence to save Darnay, but is ultimately powerless against the relentless tide of vengeance sweeping through the city. As Darnay's execution approaches, Sidney Carton, who has followed the Manettes to Paris, devises a daring plan. Deeply moved by his love for Lucie and his desire to give meaning to his life, Carton decides to sacrifice himself to save Darnay. Using their resemblance to his advantage, Carton visits Darnay in prison and convinces him to switch places by drugging him. Carton then takes Darnay's place in the cell, while Darnay is smuggled out of the prison and returned to England with Lucie, her daughter, and Dr. Manette. As he awaits execution, Carton finds peace in the knowledge that his sacrifice will bring happiness to the woman he loves. In his final moments, he recites the Bible verse, "I am the resurrection and the life," reflecting on the redemption and resurrection he hopes to find in his selfless act. Carton's last thoughts are of the future he envisions for Lucie and her family, a future made possible by his sacrifice. Sidney Carton goes to the guillotine with a sense of calm and purpose, believing that he has finally done something worthwhile. His final line, "It is a far, far better thing that I do than I have ever done. It is a far, far better rest that I go to than I have ever known," underscores the novel's themes of sacrifice, redemption, and the cyclical nature of life and death. Tale of Two Cities ends with this powerful act of love and sacrifice, offering a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness and brutality of the French Revolution. Through the intertwined fates of its characters, Dickens explores the possibility of resurrection and renewal, even in the most tumultuous of times. Please like and share the video with others and subscribe the channel. Thanks for watching.